Hi, I'm Angie Hilton and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. As business owners, major challenges are inevitable. So how do we steel ourselves to weather the storms? Here, you'll find real-life stories of resilience, as well as tips from thought leaders and mental health experts on how to become unbreakable entrepreneurs. Hi everyone and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. Today we're going to be speaking to Sue Mackey. Now, if anyone is going to handle a crisis well, you'd imagine a psychology practice would be right up there. Sue Mackey has been practice manager of the thriving psychology practice Chris Mackey and Associates for 25 years. And yes, Chris Mackey is her husband, so working alongside your partner can come with its own challenges. With 15 staff and a client base of around 200 a week to manage, Sue has really had to call on all her positive psychology education to keep a cool head as they switch their whole business model over to telehealth. Sue is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to keeping your mind up when the chips are down. Having also experienced aggressive breast cancer, she knows the power of a positive mindset. With a passion for helping others create positive workplaces, Sue has some absolute gold to share with us today. Sue, welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Angie. Great to be with you.
Sue and I actually go way back. We produced Destination Happiness TV show together, so I know Sue very well. So it's lovely to see your smiling face again.
And you.
Now, in terms of this whole COVID experience, I know you've had to do a pretty major pivot with the psychology practice. So can you give us a snapshot of your business before and after COVID hit?
Yeah, sure. Well, we've been established in Geelong, as you said, for 25 years. And the practice had 9 psychologists and admin staff at the time of the pandemic. We see, an average of 200 individual people a week, and the client base is well over 1,000 at any one time. It's over 2 sites in Geelong West, and we help people pretty much of all ages, from primary school right up to people in their 80s. So when the pandemic hit in April, I think it was, last year, suddenly we went from being, as you said, a thriving practice to everyone dropping out of the diary. It was absolutely terrifying, and we just didn't really have a rudder for where to go with it. It was, I think most people, they were struggling to buy toilet paper, so they couldn't actually think about, self-actualization or working on, their psychological issues, because it was more about survival at the time. There was a lot of fear. I think at the time we thought naively, in retrospect, that it was just going to be brief. We didn't have all the governmental sort of backup happening at the time. So there were quite a lot of sleepless nights happening when we thought we had 15 mouths to feed. And virtually our income just, the bottom dropped out of it. So from a business perspective, enormous challenge. So things evolved pretty quickly with Medicare coming on board. We're really lucky. We have our son works part-time in the practice. He's our digital manager. So he was invaluable with his millennial skills at just getting us all going digitally onto telehealth platforms. And it took about probably till the end of September for things to fully kind of get back up to speed again. We operated with all of the psychologists at home for about 6 months. So there were a lot of challenges with that, but they were all amazing. And I think it went really well. We evaluated it with our client group, and, they didn't have anything else. That was all they had at the time, was telehealth. But the feedback was really super positive, and even with children, which we hadn't expected. So telehealth became, we use Zoom or phone calls for some people, became just a great platform. And since we opened up a little bit, we've kept a hybrid version. So some of the staff still like being at home couple of days a week, and certainly some of our clients do prefer Zoom. now we have clients all over the world.
That's really amazing in some
Yeah.
to think that you can reach someone on the other side of the world. And I guess a lot of people may, if they haven't been to a psychologist before, like that safety of being able to do it at home and not have to sit next to anyone in the waiting room, because that can cause a bit of anxiety in itself, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. It really varies, the people that like telehealth and those that don't. I would have thought that adolescents would have loved it because they were very native to screens, but a lot of adolescents didn't like it. Um, so children, some of them really loved it because they could show their psychologist their pets and their bedroom, and it was just like taking the treatment right into their home. So it really worked well for a lot of people. And these days, if people are sick or having to be locked down with COVID tests or whatever, it means we can just convert that face-to-face session directly to Zoom. So it's not for everyone. There are different kind of groups, demographics and all the rest of it that prefer telehealth on a whole, but it's really great if people work or live a fair distance away because it really cuts down the time that they need. I think most people prefer to meet their psychologist face to face at some point, and the psychologists do prefer that, especially if people aren't travelling well. We really prefer to get them into the practice. So, but yeah, it's a great mode.
Yeah, amazing pivot. And I guess from the fear factor of everyone dropping off at once to now, you actually have to close your books because you can't fit anyone in. Is that am I telling the right thing there?
Well, yeah, we are closing our books periodically, unfortunately, and we've never done that in 25 years. It's really a bit heartbreaking. So we can't cater to all referrals that come in at the moment. And what we are finding is a lot of people that have been into the practice previously are kind of bouncing back for a little bit of support at this time because it's such a challenging time in history.
So what do you say to the people that are ringing around, can't get in to see anybody? Where would you direct them in the meantime? Start helping themselves?
So there's a new service that the state government has started called Head to Help. It's I think there's about 20 hubs around Victoria. It's a free service, and people can just ring in there, and they'll either see people themselves or they'll recommend services. So Head to Help. So that's a great service. Obviously, the helplines, particularly Lifeline and Kids Helpline, that chats to people up to 25, so not just kids. And what we've done in the practice is we've really ramped up our free content on our website, so that at least it's something we can recommend. Particularly the podcast that Chris and Rowan do is designed to be a bit of a deep dive into a lot of the things that go on in a therapy session, some of the episodes. So people are finding that's really useful, even if they don't come in, or if they do come in, it can fast track things a little bit with the psycho ed. Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's called Psych, Spiels and Silver Linings. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but definitely worth a listen with Rowan and Chris there. Now, I guess you have been in business 25 years. COVID's obviously been the hardest thing, but starting from scratch when you and Chris were young and starting out, what were the major challenges along the way and how did you overcome them at the time?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's lots of challenges in business, as people will know. We really didn't make any money for about the first 10 years, I think, enough to get by, obviously, but it's until the business became quite established. There were a lot of challenges in getting that going. Chris and I both coming from health professions. I was an ICU nurse, and you don't learn a lot about business in the health and welfare areas. So, and we had to learn it from the ground up. And yeah, Chris is amazing, his business knowledge, and he really is very self-taught in that area. Um, I think over the year that the challenges you'd think psychology practice that I would say to do with our clients and the people that come in, but that's not actually the case in my view. Although there can be difficult times here and there, but they're a bit few and far between. The challenges more have been in staffing and culture over the years. I think it does go up and down. And originally, when we started the business, we had set the bar fairly high as far as qualifications to work with us, and required everyone to have a master's degree in a psychology specialty. And at that time, there weren't that many people in Geelong that had master's degrees. So we did have quite a few people from Melbourne coming in. And then, of course, inevitably they leave because, the travelling isn't really such a long-term thing. Other challenges, I think, are dealing with government agencies can be really tricky. The bureaucracies there, and dealing with just getting your money in the bank from the agencies can be difficult at times. And also, well, currently at the moment, I really focus a lot on staff fatigue. So since the pandemic, and we really are in a very fortunate position now, but we've got 4 new staff this year. So our admin team, we call them the A team, had just worked so hard pivoting to telehealth and then being the engine room of the whole scenario. And then they were, operating on 2 models. So it was very exhausting. So we have 2 new admin people this year, which is great. And 2 new practitioners as well, who started, one in January, one in February, and their books were filled up within weeks. So that really helped us with our availability for appointments, and continues to do so. Yeah.
How do you, I know you're big on work culture, what advice do you have for other workplaces, and how do you keep the staff feeling happy and refreshed?
I think the most important thing is to really strive for your employees to be happy. And happy employees go straight to your business bottom line. So you need to have people that are on the same wavelength as far as your mission and your goals, and that are a really good fit. And I think, it's important to have a sense of purpose in a workplace. We're really lucky in psychology that there is a very easy sense of purpose. And I think, well, for psychologists particularly, they love learning. So I think a happy psychologist is one that gets support and the opportunity to learn more as well along the way. I think the other things like trust, mutual respect and support are super important to your culture. And fun. It is important to have a laugh along the way. So,
what are those simple little things as leaders that business owners can be doing with their staff? I know you've mentioned in the past of just simple things like smiling when you walk in the door, those sort of things that we kind of take for granted that we're doing, but we might not actually be doing if we're stressed out.
Yeah, so I think it's really good to be, for leaders and also employees, those working in the business, to be really mindful of their energy. So what sort of energy they're bringing in through the door of work that day. Obviously, it's not realistic to be upbeat all the time, but I really firmly believe as a manager or a leader that you're setting the tone of the day. So, sometimes if you're very preoccupied or stressed, you can forget to do things like say hello and smile at everyone when they walk in the door. And I do try and make a conscious effort every day. Well, it does come naturally. My desk is at the door where everyone arrives, so that helps. And being interested in your staff. So, just a little chat about how'd your weekend go, or just something more personal really makes a difference. So, and also with staff, when they're arriving to work, considering the energy they're bringing, are they just firing on one cylinder, or is there six firing? So I think in the pandemic it's really hard. People are very fatigued, but it really is important to think about your energy. I think it's good to have good communication channels. In the pandemic, when the psychologists were all at home, we certainly started up WhatsApp chats, and we had just a light little practice happenings intra newsletter that went around every week, and in that each staff member would be asked a few questions just about who they 3 people they'd like to have at a dinner party, and something that maybe we didn't know about them, and just interesting little questions. So it was great because we actually got to know people better than we would have if we were sitting in the tea room with them and having lunch. So that was a really nice thing to do. Birthdays are just huge to me. You've always got to know when your staff's birthdays are, and I think make a bit of a fuss. I think there's nothing more depressing than going to work and no one actually knows it's your birthday, and you don't feel like you want to tell them, hey, it's my birthday. So little things like that. Talking about what went well. If you have a meeting, not talking, jumping in and talking about the problems. You have to talk about, what are we celebrating? What are our wins? What's going, how's that looking towards the future, and then tackling the more challenging issues.
If you can see that one of your staff is a little bit flat, what are some suggestions that business owners can do when reaching out to them?
I always try and reach out. I always try and connect. I do say to all the staff when they start with us that, to let me know if you're feeling overwhelmed with anything work-wise. And I have the expression of throw up the white flag whenever you need. I think it's my job to look at the well-being of the staff. Now, obviously, I can't control what's happening at home. And people normally in normal life can bring problems from home into work. But it's just, we're just super lucky because we have such an amazing support network, and our practice works a lot on, with the psychologists supervising each other, peer supervision. And so there's a lot of support that comes in that way for their work. But I think it's just a matter of checking in. It's normal that people will have periods where they're not traveling well. Just accepting that, and maybe cutting back the workload a bit, because although it's super busy, I have to be mindful that we just can't keep, on going and going and going, because people really aren't having many holidays at the moment either. So thinking about more time off, or how can we help to manage that?
Yep, absolutely. Now, a lot of people, maybe not so much in your practice, but in businesses where they're dealing with customers, are going to be having difficult conversations moving forward with vaccinations and who's allowed into where. How do you suggest, are there any great tips on how to have these difficult conversations?
Yeah. Oh, look, I think there's more difficult conversations around at the moment. I think certainly, and I talk to other people in business, and there's more complaints, there's more angry calls and frustrated people. I think it's important to take that as a little bit contextual to the pandemic. People are operating on short fuses at the moment, and most of the time, not always, but an aggressive communication, say with someone on a reception, it comes across as anger or frustration, but there's probably a lot of anxiety going on underneath that. So you've got to, the important thing with a difficult conversation is to not throw oxygen onto that and to ramp it up. So if someone is frustrated, I think it's just important to have the calming down tone and to be very empathic. Empathy goes a long way. I always say sorry, whether it's I'm so sorry that you feel that way or I'm sorry that that happened to you. That must be really difficult. I think just words like that can really go a long way with a difficult conversation. Also asking them, look, what would make this easier for you? How can I actually help? Sometimes I have had more difficult conversations this year. It's true. And I think sometimes just giving people that space to vent and to, be an empathic ear is really important. Does that explain it?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I love that. I've heard that once before about just putting a sorry in the air can diffuse a lot of things. Just whether you're meant to say it or not, just throwing the sorry out there makes everyone feel.
Yeah, and I think also it's good to, if you're having a difficult conversation with, say, someone at work rather than a customer, I always try and sandwich that challenging bit because most people don't like getting feedback and are quite sensitive. Some people don't mind it straight between the eyes and they really like it that way, but most people, you could say 50 positive things, but that one negative thing will be the one that, is the big thing. So I do try and sandwich it a little bit with, if I did have to bring up something about performance or maybe an interaction that hadn't gone really well, to sort of soften it a little bit with, something positive about how that individual interacts with people generally, or maybe, you weren't your usual self that day, and check in with them about, how that was for them rather than just coming in and sort of, saying something quite direct and that will probably really get under their skin.
Yeah, I love that concept. So sandwiching it with two positives and put the little negative in the middle and make the positive quite good. That's how I'd probably need to hear it. I'm a little bit sensitive. Now I know you know a little bit about the Great Resignation. Can you explain what that is to people that may not have heard of it?
Yeah, the Great Resignation is really something that's happening in the US at the moment, and HR people in Australia are looking out for it and a little bit concerned. There's since they've opened up and since their lockdowns are over in the US, there's a huge movement of talent out of jobs. I think especially in IT, but people are changing jobs, and that can have a really big impact on your business. So, the cost of retraining people is super high. Like for a professional, it might be $30,000 to $50,000. So if you consider your staff are your greatest asset. So if you've got good staff, you really want to work to keep them. I think as the economy recovers, as it is recovering, then the power balance turns around, because certainly in the pandemic, I think the power balance has been with the employer. That will turn around. There'll be more jobs available, and suddenly employees will potentially become much more mobile. So that's a risk to businesses. What they're saying in America is that people are really reflecting on how they were treated by their employer in the pandemic, and then in the transition out of that. So their work practices have changed so dramatically in 18 months, and there are some things about that people want to hang on to. So, for example, people with children that have been working at home, it can be really good to still keep some of that because that gives flexibility. So They are saying that people are moving more away from the career path, more towards flexibility and work-life balance. So I think it's important just to consider really how you have treated your staff. And, like, obviously people leave for a whole range of reasons, but you don't want a sudden exodus out of your business. So people worked a lot extra. In 2020 in Australia, there's a study that showed they worked an extra 5 hours a week unpaid. So because they were at home. And I'm not sure about the efficiency of that, but they did work longer. They were more tired. There was less separation between work and home. So, I think it's just good to consider.
Something to think about, isn't it? I suppose if they're that little bit behind America, we've still got that chance to step it up and be very kind to our staff, and you're giving us lots of food for thought of ways to do it.
Yeah, and like, it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, it doesn't even have to cost money to treat your staff well. Like, it's really the most common reason that people leave their jobs is that they don't feel appreciated. It's not about how much they're paid. It's that they don't feel appreciated, usually by their boss.
Yeah.
So things like appreciation, respect, kindness, as we're talking about, just, really saying hello in a genuine way, having an interaction, considering them, knowing them as a person. These things are all completely free. And sometimes when you're the boss or the manager, you actually have to, I think, pretty much fake it. You might not be feeling so great, but you just got to dig deep that day and just consider that your mood can really impact on the mood of the whole team.
Yeah, I feel for the bosses because they're probably the ones carrying everything and they've got to step up and be on. So how do you suggest that they implement a little more self-care into their lives to support that?
Okay, so I've done a lot of work in the happiness researching space with positive psychology, and there are definitely ways that you can make yourself more optimistic and happier. So, but it's something that if you don't work on it, you're just beholden to your genes and your environment. So it's like you have to go out and, say go to the gym when we're allowed to. You have to actually practice positive psychology practices to help yourself be more happy. So things like gratitude exercises is a really proven one to work. Journaling for 2 minutes a day on something positive that's happened it could be that day, or it could be that week, or something in the past. Exercise is huge for everyone. That's just something got to get out, preferably in nature, ideally in nature with friends, so you're connecting as well. Really super important. And I say meditation. I don't meditate, but having a way that I've got this, beehive mind, but so it should be, but just having a way that you actually breathe during the day, and just even 2 minutes a day of deep breathing will really help you. And the stress, deep breathing just reduces cortisol levels in your body. So it's just, it's a given that if you've got a stressful situation at work, that will be a game changer too. The fifth thing probably is just being kind, doing something kind for someone else, whether it's just a compliment, but doing something for someone else will help.
Brilliant stuff there. Now, so you are a naturally happy, effervescent person, but you have been through one of the most challenging things that you can go through in life, and that is aggressive cancer. And I know your mindset was a big part of your recovery. Are you happy to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Look, whether it's cancer or whether it's COVID, you can have challenging health situations or hands dealt to you. That was an unlucky one, but I think I had good pre-season training, so I was lucky, and I worked with psychologists, and that was incredible. And I was married to one that was amazing. So there was a lot of luck factors going with me. My factory setting is pretty optimistic, so I did work a lot on my mindset at the time, and the main thing that I did was I looked at, because there's so much out of your control. I looked at the things I could control and I could modify. So I brought because I've been a bit of a positive psychology junkie before that, I did actually use a lot of strategies from positive psychology, some of the ones I mentioned previously. So I think that was really helpful.
Sue actually wrote a book called Positive Oncology, and even though it is talking about cancer, it is a book that everyone should read anyway, because the tips and tricks that you give within that are so applicable to all parts of life, I would say. And where can they get your book these days?
Well, it's on our website, chrismackey.com.au. It's on Amazon. It's at the practice. And it is the book that I wrote that I really want no one to need to read.
Yeah, so. Very good point. Now, there are quite a few people that work with their husband or wife, and it always fascinates me that you can spend all day and all night together and still stay married. What is the secret with you two? Because I know you get along very well.
Oh, look, yeah, we're best buddies. So I think that's the secret. And we also pretty much, have similar opinions and views on things. So there's not too many arguments that go along the way. We also have different, superpowers and talents. So tend to complement each other. We don't always work together in the same room. So there is a separation at work, and Chris works from home 2 days a week. So, and I'm off 1 day a week now. So there's a bit of difference there, which is great. And I think being at home, and certainly we've raised 3 children in that time, busy times with all sorts of things. It's just really good to have boundaries. So not let work pervade into home life too much. It's normal that it does a little bit, and I think there's a great synergy in having a husband-wife team. Everyone's totally on the same team rather than in partnerships. There can be more difficulties and mixed sort of goals and ways of doing things. So I think we tend to work quite well together, and there's a great synergy. And Chris is amazing at what he does. So utmost respect for his work and his way of going about things.
So handy just having that psychologist on call any moment of the day. I love that. But I imagine it could get tricky when you try to fight with them, because I reckon they'd be really good at getting their point across.
Oh, he's a master debater. So, yeah, but we don't fight a lot. So, not such an issue. But, yeah, he would generally win the arguments, I think.
So many amazing things you've shared today, but I want to finish with a few quick questions, Sue, put you on the spot. Okay. What's a funny work moment that you've had? Something you like to laugh about?
Oh, we laugh a lot at work. Sometimes people comment on that. There's a lot of laughing, but one of the funniest things was one of our buildings has like a storage cupboard inside the toilet. So you go into the toilet, and beyond that there's another little room. One of our admin girls was in there just organising something in storage when one of the male psychologists walked into the toilet and started doing his business, and she was like in the storage cupboard going, hello. So it was so awkward, but it has been a pretty funny moment.
Oh, I love it.
We're careful in the storage cupboard now.
Yeah, I'm never going to your storage cupboard. What's something you wish someone had told you when you started running the business?
Okay, gosh, so much. I was so naive. I think that there's lots of ups and downs to businesses. It's a bit of a roller coaster, and just there are days when you just think, oh, I could just throw this in tomorrow, but that time will pass, and that things do inevitably improve. But yeah, still you have to roll with the ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a work mantra?
I don't know. Let's see. I think it's to do with be responsible for the energy that you bring in the building that day. Yeah, you're at work for a long time. Might as well be a good time.
Now, is there someone in the business world that you really admire, and why?
There's lots. I like Carmen Creswell. No, from Carmen's Muesli, and her name's not Carmen. It's like Catherine. She started when she was 18 and bought the business for $1,000, and now I think it's 30 years later. She's just like multinational, but she still maintains really great values, culture. Yeah, she's the whole package, not just a muesli bar.
And not even a Carmen. Where do you see your business heading in the next decade?
It's hard to know. There's so much changing. Like, it's changed so much in a year. We're really about content creation, so I think we'll just continue to put free stuff out into the world because our services just can't cope with the amount of people that need help. So hopefully it'll look a bit more leveraging to scale in that respect. And Rowan works in the practice. Our daughters have worked in the practice and still do from time to time. They're both studying psychology. So who knows? It is a family business.
And finally, what do you want to do when we get our proper freedom back?
Gosh, it's got to be travel. I think we've had 7 cancelled holidays times away. So I have cancellation fatigue, and I really want to get to Lord Howe Island. So we've got the deposit still sitting there.
Well, hopefully it's not too far away. Thank you so much, Sue, for joining us today with so many nuggets of wisdom in there that we can all take away into our lives. So where can we find you? At chrismackey.com.au?
Correct. And it's Chris Mackey, all one word, Mackey.
Great. And there's heaps of free content, as Sue mentioned, videos and articles and you name it. But if you ever need great service too, you know where to find them. They're in Geelong West, Philamanta Street.
And I'm always happy to recommend other places if we can't see people. I do a lot of that, so make other suggestions. So
wonderful. So thank you, Sue, and thank you all for joining us. And you can find our wellbeing content at geelongchamber.com.au. We'll speak to you next time.